From starring in some of the worst movies in the industry to becoming a public laughingstock, here's the real reason fans love to hate Nicolas Cage. For starters, it's not him, it's the movies. Now, this guy's been in a lot of films. We've seen him fighting terrorists, swapping souls with Satan, and playing more deadbeats and weirdos than I can count. I mean, there's a reason only a few men are more popular in Hollywood than Nick Cage, which is something even Guillermo del Toro agrees with. The filmmaker said that there will never be anyone like him, and he wasn't the only. Scorsese also sang high praises about his acting style, with Ethan Hawke even comparing him to Marlon Brando. But it's not just people in Hollywood. The guy's got a cult following of stans, even though his career peaked at a time without the internet. Did you know that there are 20 podcasts dedicated to dissecting his films? Yeah. If he's such a big deal though, why do people hate him so much? Like, you can't even scroll for 2 minutes on Twitter without seeing a Cage meme, or somebody talking about his style of acting. The reason isn't that Nick is a bad actor, he's just been in a lot of bad movies. And it wasn't always like this. Nicolas has had some good moments in movies like Moonstruck, Con Air, and Leaving Las Vegas. But that success is a thing of the past. Why? Well, the guy used to top the box office back in the early 2000s, but if you pick up a Cage movie now, you'll straight up forget any of that ever happened. So what changed? Well, the quality of his newer films. You see, all of Nick's new stuff has 2 things in common. First, they're usually low-budget, direct-to-streaming action films, with less plot and more explosion sound effects. Second, the selling point is usually Cage himself with nothing else to add substance. And the producers know this too because of their shifty scripts and B-grade direction always make the actor stick out like a sore thumb. But sometimes even he can't save the films. Remember 211, Left Behind, and Grand Isle? They did horribly at the box office, with Grand Isle having a terrifying 9% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Sheesh. With films like these, it's no wonder people are questioning his career. Add Nick's Oscar-winning history to the mix, and it makes the disappointment justified, because he probably knows what films win awards and chooses to skip over them anyway. So the obvious question is, if he knows what a good film is, why does he keep doing bad ones? Turns out, it's for a legitimate reason. Back in 2022, the actor told GQ that it's got a lot to do with financial trouble. You see, between 1996 and 2011, Cage made about $150 million from his films, which made him one of the highest-paid actors at the time. But surprise, surprise, he blew it all on a horrifying spending spree in the late 2000s. And what was it? Well, 2 European castles, the first Superman comic, a shark, a crocodile, and a pyramid-shaped burial tomb in New Orleans, which, by the way, is called the Cage Pyramid, which does sound pretty cool. But all of this coolness adds up to a terrible credit score, which is the reason why he's been accepting movie roles like free samples at a buffet, and that's not all. His father's death, along with bad real estate investment, also pushed him down the conveyor belt of bad movies. At one point, Cage was doing 4 movies back-to-back in a year, so I can't help but feel a little bad for the guy. But hey, props to him for making use of his talent, right? And speaking of talent, that's the other reason people hate him so much. As you probably know, the actor is notorious for his over-the-top performances. The guy's intensity leaves most people straight up confused, and this was before he even started doing bad movies. Just take The Vampire's Kiss from 1988, the dark comedy about a literary agent who believes he's turning into a vampire. You might have guessed, but Nick's acting makes him perfect for the role because his exaggerated expressions, crazy eyes, and willingness to eat up cockroaches are exactly what you'd expect from that character. But sadly for him, his style of acting doesn't suit every movie, and he's been criticized a lot for ruining the credibility of roles. Just take Ghost Rider. Now, I know what you're thinking. How seriously can you take a biker with a flaming skull? But even then, Cage's exaggerated performance really pushed the boundaries of his character, giving way to a ton of criticism. and a host of memes and internet parodies. You could say this is when his downfall started, and most of his movies have been terrible ever since. And it's not just me saying this. Cage enthusiasts everywhere feel the same way. I mean, just look at the reactions to Renfield, a horror comedy starring Nick that's set to release in 2023. When the trailer came out in January, Twitter reactions were less than ideal, ranging from "oh noes" to people comparing Cage's character to Jared Leto's Joker, which is probably a nightmare for anyone's PR team. And this isn't his only recent movie to get a bad review. Let me tell you, fans have created whole lists of bad movies by the actor, and the worst part, most of them include recent films. Which tells you all you need to know about how fans feel. Now, if you're curious, 4 of his worst movies have Rotten Tomatoes scores of below 10, and that's combined. 211, which came out in 2018, has 4%, while 2014's Arsenal has, wait for it, 1%. Yikes. But it's not like Nick doesn't know about all this. The actor has even reacted to internet comments about himself, including memes for a GQ video. And when Vulture magazine asked him about all the hate, he responded with, "If you can't beat 'em, join 'em." Well, that's one way to go about it, but he's not just sitting back and taking it. Nick found a way to make a paycheck from his reputation. For those who don't know, Cage played himself in the 2022 action comedy The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, where his character deals with the troubles of, well, massive talent. But what makes the movie so special is the fact that it lets Nick poke fun at himself. I mean, one of the main jokes is that he might do something kooky at any point, like raising his voice or pulling a wild face, which is what people associate with his characters. So if that isn't taking a joke, I don't know what is. But no matter what Cage does for damage control, I think his reputation's quite solid now, both with fans and his fellow actors. When it comes to his intense acting, some actors like Samuel Jackson have appreciated Nick, calling him bold and fearless, but others don't have a lot of good things to say about his unique style. They believe that it overshadows the actual characters. Some actors have even raised questions about his personality, like Vinnie Jones, who starred in Cage with Gone in 60 Seconds. While recalling his on-set experience, Jones called the actor a geezer and mentioned that his humor on set was trash. Kathleen Turner, his Peggy Sue Got Married co-star, straight up called Nick an a-hole for his acting choices and offset antics. Apparently, the guy was arrested for drunk driving twice during the movie and even snatched somebody's dog. So I guess I can understand where Turner's coming from, but some actors appreciate Cage for his quirkiness. After starring with him in The Trust in 2016, Elijah Wood praised the guy for his musicality, as in the way he delivers his lines. To be fair, Nick does have a reputation for exaggerating everything he does, including lines, so I'd say that checks out. But besides people's personal opinions, Cage has become a bit of a public laughingstock. Now, making fun of him is a whole genre of comedy, especially on the telly. Geez, I can't even count all the shows with a special Nick Cage impression segment. Oh, and my favorite one is Simon Helberg's, by the way. But like I said before, Nick is in on the jokes, and the guy himself even participates sometimes. Like in SNL's Get in the Cage skit, where Cage allowed Andy Samberg to act like him, but on steroids. There's also his face-off with Jimmy Fallon, where the two went head-to-head in an epic impersonation battle. And if you thought the jokes were caged to television, you'd be wrong. Just look up any of the hundreds of Nicolas Cage losing his shit compilation videos. All in all, Cage is a pretty fascinating guy, because he's done some great work before, but if you look at what he's doing now, well, it's almost too easy to hate him. And there you have it, folks. From becoming a public laughingstock to starring in some of the worst movies in the industry, this was the real reason fans love to hate Nicolas Cage.